Yeah, thank you for all the amazing work you've done and the relentless education that you're providing for everybody. So maybe share with us a little bit of just what happened. How did you get so interested in protein and a little bit of your journey of health optimization?
I got interested in health optimization because my wife's a nurse. She got a degree in microbiology and she's a nurse, and she went to a Jeffrey Bland. I don't know if Jeffrey's still around, but Jeffrey Bland worked for Linus Pauling. He was a biochemist, PhD biochemist, and he was at Stanford. And he used to go around doing lectures on nutritional biochemistry. And he worked for at the time he worked with Metagenics. And he's like one of the smartest guys I ever met. He could read medical journals at 1,500 words per minute, had an eidetic memory, collected probably the largest medical library outside of an official library of his own. It was up in Seattle. And he could quote you page numbers and journal citations on about anything he said. So she was starting to go to these lectures, and she got really excited by it. And one day she said to me, and the time I was doing I switched from pediatrics, infectious disease, hospital practice to emergency medicine. And she said, "You got to go hear this guy because he's really smart and you'll like him." So I went to one of his lectures. He did a weekend seminar over in Orlando, not too far from here. And he just amazed me, and he got me completely interested in the subject. And so she had some health challenges, which learning about this stuff helped her with. And we were playing around, and we had friends who said, "Well, you're learning all this stuff. Why don't you try it on us?" And so I said, "I'm not really sure I know what I'm doing, but emergency room shift work." So I had, 12-hour shifts, either 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I was doing probably 14 shifts a month. And I had some days where I could play around. And she's a nurse. She has a home health nursing business, and she had an extra room. And so I said, "Well, I'll meet you there at 2:00 on Wednesday afternoon. I'm off, and we'll play around." Now, I had gone to sort of the greats, Omura, Klinghardt, like I went everywhere. We went everywhere. Like, who knows something? We're going there. And in the middle 90s, there was really no organized courses, A4M, like everything was sort of very primitive. And so you had to go to some guy's office, or if he was doing a weekend seminar, you had to go to the seminar and learn from him. So we went and we learned stuff. And so I had people coming in, and it's like, "I've got rheumatoid arthritis and my doctor's not helping me, and can you help me?" And I would take them through my sort of program, and it really worked. And the practice just blossomed. And I was having way more fun doing that than emergency medicine, because it's drunks and car accidents and old people who are on 12 or 14 drugs who are obtunded, and they're out of it and they got a bellyache. And it just was, I don't know, it got to be, the big corporations came into ERs and bought ERs, and then it just wasn't fun. So I started this practice, and it really mushroomed, and it sort of paralleled with I like performance racing. So I'm a triathlete, and I was always trying to, how can I get faster, and how can I keep my health, and how can I improve my physiology? And what I learned is that what's good for sick people is also good for well people. And I worked with some of the best athletes in the world, and I would do my same workup on them as I would do on someone who had chronic fatigue or Lyme disease. And, you don't find the degree of dysfunction in these guys, but for a Tour de France athlete, if he can get 5 more watts of power over a 6-hour ride, he can win. He can get up that mountain faster. Or a swimmer, 100th of a second is the difference between the champion and the second place. And so well, I would do the same workup and I would find things and we would put those things in, cleaning up their gut and, they had nutrient deficiencies and they had toxicities and they would get better. And then they would send, I saw NASCAR drivers. I saw, like all kinds of different people, all who had wanted performance. So I injured my hamstring and I could not get it to heal. And every time I tried to run hard, I could feel it. And I knew that if I pushed it, I was going to tear it. And I did everything that I could think of at the time. I saw chiropractors and acupuncturists and massage therapists, and I put cold on it and I put heat on it. And we didn't have peptides then, but I did everything that I could do and it just wouldn't heal. Mm. And then I started experimenting. I did a lab test, which looked at it's Genova now, but the lab was called Metagenics. And they have this profile called an ION profile, ION, individual optimized nutrition. And they had fasting levels of serum amino acids. And I did the serum amino acid test and I had a lot of deficiencies in essential amino acids, like mine were low. And I really thought that I had optimized my nutrition. Energetically, I felt well. I could race well, but I had this nagging leg that just wouldn't get better. Mm. So I started playing around with amino acids, essential amino acids. And I had a friend over in Europe who had some mixtures and I just horsed around with it. And I found that I started consistently taking this. In about 6 weeks, my hamstring stopped hurting. And I could push hard. And about 6 weeks after that, I went to, there's a famous Ironman in British Columbia in Canada. And I had done the race probably 10 times. And I went there and I had the best time I'd ever had. Mm. And my leg was strong. And I thought, wow, this stuff does something. And so I started to use it in the practice. And people would come back and say, my hair wasn't growing and now my hair's growing and my energy's better and my chronic plantar fasciitis is better. And I started measuring amino acids in everybody. Like part of my standard workup is to get that panel. It's got vitamins, minerals, essential fats, and amino acids. And I found that almost everybody was deficient. Mm. And so I wrote an article for Triathlete magazine on my experience. And this is before there was really Facebook and real internet stuff. So it was an article, it was a published magazine. And I got 3,000 people wrote me like, where do I get this stuff?
Oh, wow.
And so I already had this company that I'd started a few years before called Body Health. And we were selling mostly heavy metal detoxification products, multivitamins, heavy metal detoxification products. And I said, we might as well make this stuff. So we started making this stuff. Mm. And then we've got, thousands of doctors buy the product, use it in their practice for their patients. And this stuff really works. And it works because it fills that niche, which today is, I think 50 or 75 years ago, when food was actually food and you could get it and you could eat it, like real food, not packaged food, vegetables that had vitamins and minerals and meats that weren't contaminated and fish that weren't contaminated. And, it's hard to find clean food. And where 100% of people that I see now have gut dysbiosis. They have bad bugs in their gut, 100%. They malabsorb. They don't digest. They've got overgrowth of fungi and bad bacteria. Many of them have parasites. And many, many people, like I think the market for acid blockers, for prescription acid blockers, is like 24 billion a year. It's a huge market. That might be a little bit high, but it's big. It's really big. And then now, Pepcid and Tagamet and all these drugs are available over the counter. And anyone that's got probably really a food allergy or a stomach acid deficiency is taking these products because they don't know what's wrong with them. And if they take these products, then their stomach ache goes away and they feel better. Mm-hmm. Really, what they don't know is it's silently, slowly killing them. Mm-hmm. You know, the stomach cancer incidence is way higher, and the chances that they're going to get SIBO and, you know, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and, you know, bad stuff is 100% of them. And when you don't have stomach acid, you can't digest proteins. The first step in protein digestion is pepsin. And pepsin, in order to become active, has to have an acid environment. Mm-hmm. And when you take these drugs which block acid, then your stomach pH is 7 or thereabout. And it really needs to be 1.5 or 1. Mm. And when you take the drugs, so you don't digest proteins and you don't absorb minerals. So people get low in magnesium and calcium and iodine and other things that they need, that you really need stomach acid to absorb. And they don't know it. And it's going to catch up with them later, but at the time they don't know it. Mm. So we have this problem now of food that's a problem. And many people, it's virtually everybody. If we measure a stool test on them, which we do on every person, there's really problems there. They have lack of digestive enzymes and lack of hydrochloric acid and bad bacteria and not enough good bacteria and then yeast overgrowth or parasites. And so even if they are eating a good, nutritious diet, the best that they can, the chances of them actually digesting it and then turning that protein into the amino acids, which we measure in their blood, it's just not successful. I see. And so amino acids are the building blocks of all the body proteins, and our body's basically made out of protein. So it's enzymes, it's immune, all the immune mediators are proteins. It's bones, it's skeletal muscle. And you go to A4M, muscle is longevity. Old people lose their muscle, then they die. They fall down, they break their, going with the muscle is going with the bones. And you fall down and break your hip. The chances that you'll be dead in a year, a 60-year-old or a 65-year-old or 70-year-old is 50% because the body structure is decomposed. So I found that not only did my performance increase and my leg got better, I gained 9 pounds of lean body mass when I started taking Perfect Amino.
Wow.
And I didn't measure any different. Like I didn't look physically different. And I consulted with an amino acid chemist and he said, well, you probably were amino acid deficient eating what you were doing. I'm on a triathlon diet. I'm on a high carb, rice and beans and not enough protein. I mean, I thought I knew what I was doing, but, anyway. And he said, you're probably gaining bone strength, like you're filling in your bones and you're filling in your organs.
Oh, wow.
And you were malnourished. Now, there's an interesting story with this because there's a very infamous dentist in New York named William Donald Kelly. And I don't know if you ever heard of the Kelly protocol. Anyway, William Donald Kelly was a dentist in New York, and he developed pancreatic cancer. And he was very anti-regular medicine. And the successes for pancreatic cancer with traditional medicine are lousy. Yeah. So he discovered some work done by a Scottish anatomist back in the 1920s that said that pancreatic enzyme deficiency underlies cancer. And so he put together mixtures of pancreatic enzymes, which he took in very high doses, and sauna and coffee enemas, and cured his pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
He then had 10,000 different people that he worked with remotely using this protocol where they got better too. That's a very tough protocol. And before he died, he trained a woman who happened to be a patient of mine. And she's going through this training and she's learning this whole thing. And then one day she comes in for a visit and she says, you know, I've got access to these real high dose pancreatic enzymes. And what he says is that you could do a test run on yourself to see if you have brewing cancer, because they will eradicate brewing cancer. And I said, I'm game. So these things are very concentrated, and you're supposed to take 12 of these tablets before breakfast, with breakfast, 12 before lunch, 12 with lunch, 12 before dinner, 12 with dinner, and then 12 more before you go to bed. So like 72 of these a day. Okay. And these are super concentrated enzymes from pork pancreas. Mm. So I take the first 12, and within about an hour and a half, I think I've burned a hole in my stomach. I'm vomiting bile. I've got a severe burning stomach. I was really scared. Mm. And it took, I was drinking bicarbonate soda, and I was doing, I was trying to like alkalinize my stomach. And then I saw her the next day and I said, I don't think I have cancer, but man, I couldn't take these things. And I didn't really know what was wrong, but I just knew that wasn't going to work for me. Mm. Now, so that was a couple years before. So I started taking the amino acids. I healed. My performance is getting better. I'm doing really good. And I remembered that. And I thought maybe the symptom of amino acid deficiency in me, because we were giving these enzymes to people and they were doing fine with them, but I couldn't take them. Because I'm going to try these enzymes again. So I call her up and I said, send me another bottle of enzymes. And I did 72 3 days in a row with nothing. Hmm. So the downstream effects of amino acid deficiency, really is what it is very different in each person. We have had people who, like if you look on Body Health website, we have probably thousands of testimonials, and these people they come in from all different angles of like, I started taking this and then this happened, and I couldn't ever fix this and then this happened. So because the body is made out of protein, and the building blocks for protein are amino acids, that if you're not getting them or you're not digesting them, a person who has a bagel with some cream cheese and a cup of coffee for breakfast and a salad with 4 ounces of chicken at lunch and maybe some roast beef at dinner with some green beans, they're going to be protein malnourished. Mm. They are. You measure their amino acids, they're going to be low. It isn't enough. And you have people doing intermittent fasting, which can be fine, but now they're down to 2 meals a day.
Yes.
And they're not getting enough protein. And one of the beautiful things about or people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic, or they want to go on the ketogenic diets because they're having trouble with blood sugar, they're having trouble, neurological problems, or we put our cancer patients on ketogenic diets because we want to restrict carbs in them. But then if you restrict carbs and the diets are high fat, they don't get enough protein either. And so they get protein malnourished. So one of the beauties of Perfect Amino is that it's got basically 0 calories. 10 tablets is only 4 calories. Mm-hmm. So you can use this to supplement. So you asked me earlier, but I'm trying to get people to eat 1 gram per pound of protein per day. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you weigh 130 pounds and you want 1 gram per pound, that's 130 grams of protein. Now in 2 meals, it's impossible. Mm. You won't eat 75 grams of protein in a meal. Like an egg is like 6 or 7 grams of protein. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many eggs you can eat in one serving, but my limit's 4. That's only 28 grams of protein. I've seen some of these guys, they eat 12 eggs. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I can't do it. Anyway, it's not enough. So even if you have good protein meals, it's hard to get to that point. And a scoop, 2 scoops of Perfect Amino is the equivalent of 30 grams of steak, of the protein in steak. Mm-hmm. So you could have 2 protein meals, meat, fish, or eggs for lunch and dinner, if you're trying to do an intermittent fast, or if even divided 3 meals, that would be, for your 130-pound woman, it's 45 grams of protein per meal. That's a full amount of protein. That's probably 6-7 ounces of steak or fish, or 8 eggs. That's a lot of protein. And there's calories with that too. So if you're trying not to become a blimp, Perfect Amino has no calories, so you can use it. So when I get up in the morning, I take 2 scoops of Perfect Amino. That gives me 30 calories to jumpstart my whole day. And then if I'm training a lot, I'll eat 3 protein meals, and then I'll have an extra couple scoops of Perfect Amino, and I need 160 grams of protein a day. And I find that works for me. But I couldn't do it with